All right, welcome in to the Jordy Culotta Show here on this Thursday, live here from the UDL, presented daily by Go Chevrolet, online at GEAUXchevrolet.com. Get in touch with Lee Carney, Nick Richard, the entire crew over at Go Chevrolet. Was out at lunch yesterday and heard a success story from Go Chevrolet. A happy customer had gone down to Laplace and shopped a new car inventory, which it seems like the cars are starting to make their ways back to lots with the chip crisis that was plaguing not only the automobile industry but other industries, but the automobile industry more than others. And it seems like that's kind of working itself out now. So things starting to return to normal on car lots. As go see Lee Carney and the crew down there in Laplace, Louisiana, as they can get you set up in a new car, used car over here in Go Express Auto Sales, as they're located on Florida Boulevard in Sherwood Forest. So stop in and see them over there. Every day here on the Jordy Culotta Show, we are brought to you by Go Chevrolet. Our coffee is presented by Majestic Brews. Majestic Brews is online at delicioussips.com, so stop in and see them. That's locally brewed down here in South Louisiana. True Blue Water every single day. True Blue Water, TRUE, bluewater.com. And our phone guest, Ben Baby, will be here from ESPN.com as he covers the Cincinnati Bengals for ESPN.com. And we'll get the latest on Jamar Chase starting camp up there in Cincy, Joe Burrow, how his health is throughout the first start of training camp. Thaddeus Moss, where's he fit in to the Cincinnati offense, and just get an update here as the NFL schedule starts tonight. There is football that is going to be played that you can watch on your television tonight in Canton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame game, the annual start to the NFL and really the football season. As you'll see, the first time preseason football in two major brands, huge brands with the Cowboys and the Steelers kicking off the season. We'll give a small preview to the game as we'll have some SEC and LSU flavor in that game. So we'll talk a little bit about that coming up here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Don't forget about Papa Earl's Spice. Before we get going, Papa Earl's, you see the cup every single day. That is local as well. Our guy Pop is a fantastic marketer. In fact, this was Amazon Newcomer Business of the Year last year. It can be picked up locally at High Neighbor, Calandro's, Mathern's, just about every local restaurant and grocery store, and now will be on the shelves over at Hebert's Specialty Meats as we'll get that deal done here pretty soon. So love our sponsorship and our partnership with Papa Earl's. Make sure and grab them today when you see them. They're all over the place. Like we said, Mathern's, Calandro's, High Neighbor, all of the local grocery stores. Noah is here. Jack overslept. Lloyd and Katie are still on vacation. So a light crew here on this Thursday as LSU getting set to report to camp. Saints in the middle of training camp. As we said, the NFL schedule gets going tonight. We're trying to track down Greg Stringfellow and the crews over there in the LSU equipment room to get some of the storylines of just reporting day and how much goes into this. What's the preparation like? How much gear has Nike dropped off to the facility at LSU? Speak of the devil, there's G-String right there checking in. Yep, I figured that they'd be pretty busy as he can't get to us in between 7 and 9 a.m. So we will track one of those guys down at some point and talk a little bit about that. But obviously, the story is LSU reporting, and what the storyline is going to be looking at is obviously the quarterback position, right? And everybody is talking about the quarterback position. I was talking to J-Boy yesterday. I was on his show on Jake Crane, the J-Boy show, and all we talked about for about 10 minutes in covering LSU is what the situation is going to be like at quarterback. And I think that for LSU fans, that there's not a lot of concern when you think about the starting role of this team and going into the season and how how LSU really thought about the quarterback at the first team level. I really don't. I think that Ed Ogeron, and I've said this numerous times, and if you've listened to the show, you know what I'm about to say, but I think that Ed Ogeron really tipped his hand a couple of weeks back when he was speaking publicly on WWL radio, speaking about the quarterback position, and just how the team knew, the locker room knew, the coaching staff knew who the guy was. And, you know, to me, I think that was obvious that it was Max Johnson. If it was Miles Brennan, I think you just come out and say that it's Miles Brennan. He's the guy with the veteran experience and the leadership, and, you know, he's got all the skins and has been here, and that meant something to him. And Max Johnson obviously was recognized as the better quarterback in the middle of the summer. So, you know, I think that LSU's okay from a starting standpoint. It just puts a lot of pressure on the depth. And I think that Jake Crane brought up a good point yesterday, J-Boy, in talking about it also applies pressure to the play caller. Because now, you know, really, when you break down Max and Miles, to me, the advantage of playing Max was his ability and his athleticism to keep plays alive, to scramble out of you know, circumstances that may end up in a sack with a guy that may not be as mobile, or design quarterback run where you can just call that, whether it be within the red zone or a short yardage situation where, you know, I mean, he can just put his head down and get you 2 yards. I don't know how much that changes, you know, going into the game now that you're just a snap away from playing a true freshman. It's things that now kind of change in the background that you not necessarily will see, you know, in watching the game, and that it'll be blatant when you watch LSU play, but how much do you now have to shift in your mindset, your play calling, your confidence, and does that take away the strong suit of Max Johnson, or just at least a certain part of his skill set that makes him unique? You know, that now is something that you have to think about from LSU's standpoint. And yesterday I was over at A-Bears in A-Bears Specialty Meats in Gonzales, which is a beautiful location. You should stop in if you're out there. And the door continuously was swinging open over at A-Bears in Prairieville, right there next to Dutchtown, with people picking up boudin and people picking up all types of meats for the day that's being cut up over there at A-Bears. But somebody asked me about a comment that I had made, I guess over the last 2 days, about, you know, possibly Max Johnson getting what the NFL calls camp arm, where, you know, essentially you just overwork somebody's arm and their arm almost is dead for a couple of days, or just numb, you know, where you have to give somebody a day off. And the guy said, man, did I hear you talking about Max Johnson and them worrying about his reps and how they're going to use him now because they may tire him out? And, you know, I think it's something that you have to think about, right? I mean, I know that he's 19 years old and that, you know, I mean, he's approaching his athletic prime and he's got energy for days. But I think you do have to monitor how you rep him in camp, because I think that there is a such thing as over repping. I mean, you can not necessarily tire somebody out, but you can almost exhaust him before the season starts in just trying to force feed all the information and get him, you know, overly prepared now, knowing that he's the guy. And how do you divvy up the reps between Garrett Nussmeier and Max Johnson in fall camp, right? I mean, because you want to make sure that Johnson is prepared and ready to go, but you also know that now Nussmeier is a second-team quarterback, and he's got to be kept up to speed. He's got to be brought up to speed in being able to run the offense. So I think that there is some fascinating storylines for LSU going in to this fall camp. Obviously, the offensive line, right? I mean, what is the offensive line going to look like? What's the offensive line going to build as far as the depth is concerned? And that's going to have to be figured out right here in fall camp. I mean, there's going to have to be some guys that step up and provide either depth or challenge for a starting role, because I don't think that every position on this offensive line is solidified. I mean, I know that Ed Ogeron has publicly said that Cam Wire is the left tackle, but, I mean, first off, you've got a new coach on the offensive line. So you've got new eyeballs, a new evaluator. For a lot of those guys, it's a fresh start. It's an opportunity to get on the field finally, or let somebody else see you practice, or let somebody else, form an opinion of you. I'm sure all the background stuff has been done for Brad Davis and the offensive line coach to get as much information as he can on his guys. But, I mean, nothing can substitute getting out there and evaluating on your own and watching them and coaching them up and putting your hands on them and being able to talk to them in their eyes and seeing how they react once they get into the competition. So maybe, you hear some different guys taking a step forward, or maybe a new name emerges as somebody who can step up and provide quality depth, or step up and be a starter. I mean, who's going to be the right guard on this team? Is it going to be Chase and Hines? I mean, is now the time for Hines to really just kind of grip this thing and grab it and say, look, man, I'm a starter? Because his name's always kind of, Hines might go, or it might be Bradford, or it could be somebody else that steps in there and plays. Xavier Hill is a utility guy that we hear they can play in a lot of spots, and it seems like it's his time to step up and be ready and play big-time football in the SEC. So, I mean, the offensive line, to me, really is, as I've said throughout the summer, now quarterback has jumped up that list because of the depth that you've lost here in the last week. But as far as concern levels go, my highest concern level for LSU going into the season is the offensive line. And they have talent there, and I'm not worried about guys that can play. I'm just worried about who's going to play, right? Like, I mean, I know that Ed Ingram potentially could be an all-SEC guy. I know that Austin Deculus is going to start more football games than any other player in the program's history this season. I mean, they've been playing football at LSU for a long time, and this guy's played more games than anybody in a starting role. So, I mean, it's you got experience, you got guys, you got things that are positive to build on. Liam Shanahan started every game, played every snap for you at center last year. You would think now he'd be a lot more comfortable playing that position and really understands the expectation of playing in the league, which, by the way, I think that Liam Shanahan is probably one of the most irreplaceable parts on this team when you're just going into the season. Now, I know they have guys on this roster that they think can do it, but, I mean, a center to me is as important, and this is breaking news. I mean, everybody in this listening audience who knows the game of football understands the importance of having a center, and Shanahan, like we said, took every snap, played every game, started every game last season, and when you look behind him, I don't know who it would. I guess it would be Hines, but I mean, you'd have to move him and change positions, and now you're losing confidence in the anchor and interior of that offensive line. I think Liam Shanahan is as irreplaceable of a part on this team that LSU has going into fall camp. I mean, it's got to, this offensive line, and above all else with the O-line, above all else, what we have to discuss is that they have to stay healthy. Especially those three guys, Deculus, Shanahan, and Ingram. I mean, if you lose one of those guys and you've got to replace one of them, now you're digging into lines of depth that you just don't have. I mean, you don't have anybody proven. Anybody that you would throw out there next is going to be a guy that you have to say, hey, are you ready? Because you better be. Because you got to go play. Xavier Hill, Anthony Bradford. I mean, all these names, everybody that we've heard about. I mean, I shudder to say Cardell Thomas just because, I mean, it seems like he's, it just doesn't seem like he's a part of the mix. When they go down the offensive line depth chart and they mention names, it's incredible, but his name is just not mentioned. And like I said, when I say that Brad Davis is a new coach with new eyeballs, a new evaluator, the guy, in my opinion, who has the best opportunity to, really kind of change the narrative on where he's been at LSU up to this point would be Cardell Thomas. Nobody talks about Thomas. Get the new offensive line coach buzzing about you and, have him bring your name up. And then, that's how this stuff works. I don't think that necessarily the book is completely shut on Thomas. It feels like it has been at certain times. But now he's got an opportunity with a new coach and a new camp and a new feel and really playing time up for grabs. This is a great spot if you're an offensive lineman that has gotten yourself ready to play. If you're prepared to play as an offensive lineman on LSU's roster right now going into camp, you should have every chance in the world to get on the field. So, can they figure out some depth, the starters, some question marks that they have up front? Did they find a number 2 playmaker early on in training camp? I think that's a question that will be answered a lot easier than the offensive line scenario that we just put out there. I think that offensive line scenario is the highest concern level on the team because you just don't have anything to fall back on that gives you any cause for security. There's nothing that you can see. There's no film that you can go back and look at and say, yeah, he looked good there, or this guy played well there. There's, spot scenarios and blowout games where you can go back and evaluate some guys. But as far as like playing against the big boys, the Floridas, the Ole Miss, the Mississippi States, the Auburns, the Alabamas, the Texas, that you're looking for 5 guys that can sustain, stay healthy, and then you're looking for about, +4 to that, +3 to that minimum that you can count on, that you can look at and say, hey, you got to be able to play at a high level today. You got to be able to block, some of the dominant defensive tackles in college football and in the SEC, because that's where most of them reside, right? So it's going to be interesting on some of these storylines, how they kind of shake out. And it's, from the number 2 playmaker spot, I think that is a position that's up for grabs, but I think that there is going to be there's going to be a lot of candidates there.
There's less unknown with the O-line. You've never seen some of those guys go out and really perform.
There's still a little bit of the unknown to the number 2 playmaker because I think that there's some expectation for one of these true freshmen maybe to be it.
Right.
Which is concerning, but these guys are, they're elite talent. And it's tough to say that every year because I think at LSU, at schools like LSU, you see you see high-end talent come in every year, and you see them dominate high school football like some of these guys have at such a routine rate that, there is this learning curve and there is this grace period or, ungraceful period for these guys where they figure out that this, the game is a little bit faster, guys are a little bit stronger, but this wide receiver core, as talented as all of these guys are, whether it's Chris Hilton, Brian Thomas, Deion Jones from Mississippi, who was here in spring that was banged up, that got a lot of, quality experience as far as getting a head start on the program of figuring some things out. Now, he had a foot setback or a setback with a foot injury in springtime, but, I think that he's going to be ready to go during fall camp. And obviously we've gushed over Jack Besh and just who he could be in his freshman season. And then Malik Neighbors, when you talk to people around Neighbors is another one of those guys that, they think is going to be an All-American type player down the line. Just the potential of what he could be. And, the mentality that he has. I mean, there are people that are in love with Malik Neighbors at LSU. And so I think that you can get to the number 2 playmaker a little quicker than you can answer some of these questions around the offensive line and who's going to be the guy, who's going to step up, who's going to make, the confidence of the coach be there that you can turn and look at on the road and say, hey, you got to get in there and play. I mean, you got to get out there and play. Because I think that, one of those freshmen, Jeray Jenkins, John Trey Kirkland, one of these older wide receivers, John Emery, Ty Davis Price. I mean, somebody is going to be a playmaker. These guys are too talented and too good on just being able to play the game and get open, and are too good with the ball in their hands in space. And Pete's understands that on offense. When you think about LSU offensively, I think they're getting back to they know they have athletes. Just get them the ball in their hands and try to create open spaces for them and just let them dance, man. Just let them go. Let them run. Let them show off their speed. Let them be the playmakers that you recruited. And Pete's, to me, is, a perfect marriage of what LSU wants to be. I mean, that's who Orgeron kind of foresaw the offense to be when he was in the interim role, when he wanted to get there when he first got the permanent job. And Joe Brady was, the absolute unicorn and somebody that you just were, you were lucky to have for a year. I mean, quite frankly, you just were blessed to have that guy on a college campus for one season, because he is going to be an elite NFL head football coach at some point in his career. It'll probably happen over the next 3 years. But Pete's is a guy that understands all of that. He comes from that tree. He's a spread guy, an RPO guy, a guy that just wants to get athletes the ball in space and let them go. And LSU is chock-a-block full of athletes and playmakers. I mean, we don't even mention guys like Trey Palmer when we run down the list of potential playmakers at the wide receiver spot. I mean, think how many names we've rattled off before we say Palmer's name, who is as electric of a guy, or could be as electric of a guy if he gets it all right. You've seen shades of it. You've seen kickoff returns. You've seen run after the catch capability a few times out there. If he can consistently bring it every Saturday, catch the football, stay healthy, stay on the field, I mean, I have no idea how good Palmer could be. I mean, it's not out of the question that he could be like an All-American type guy, or just, like a specialist where he could, he would be scary to kick the ball to, because he's just that electric of a player. So, I mean, I think some of the questions here in camp are going to be fun to answer. It's going to be fun to find out who has really taken the summer to get better. Coy Moore. I don't think that Coy Moore is a game breaker. He's not a home run hitter, but he's a great possession wide receiver that if you need a first down and it's 3rd and 8 and he runs a 12-yard comeback, to me, I got a lot of confidence he's going to catch it. He may not break the tackle and bust it open, but, I mean, he'll get you the 12 and move the chains, which there's room for. So, I mean, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered about LSU, more of them on offense, because I think, like we said yesterday, I think that the defense is championship level right now. I think that people look at LSU and consider them a contender because of their defense, because of what they return, most notably Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley. That's going to give you and bring you a lot of attention because of just who those guys are and the position that they play. And Stingley wasn't right last year. I mean, but look at what I'm going to look at with Stingley, and what I think Stingley deserves to be looked at as is look at his life as a football player. He started as an 8th grader on a varsity team at Dunham, and we can debate the competition all day, but he was clear-cut the best player in that program for the 4 out of 5 years that he played. Outside of his 8th grade year, When he got on camp, when he started playing routinely as a freshman through his senior year, he was dominant, like a player should be against that competition that he was going against every Friday night. Then he hits the camp circuit, and he is the best player in the country. He gets to LSU, and to me, he was the best defensive back in college football that year. Forget freshman status, forget national champ, forget Thorpe Award, SEC newcomer of the year. I mean, Bo Nix should feel like a highway robber. I mean, like he's a criminal for getting that freshman of the year award that season in the SEC. I mean, not only was Derek Stingley the best DB in the league, not only was he the best freshman in America, he could have been the best defensive player in college football that year. And then last year, it didn't start well with the stuff the night before the Mississippi State game, to playing against Missouri and tripping over the first down chains, to spraining his ankle, to the Devontae Smith game versus it just never got right for him last year. But that's the outlying season to Derek Stingley. Like, that's the outlier. Everything else, he's been dominant. I expect him to be dominant again. I mean, if you've kept up with anybody on social media this summer or off season, and it's not Stingley, you should do yourself a favor. He's motivated. He's ready to go. This is the year that he's talked about his entire life. I mean, him, his family, his people, his team, everybody has talked about 2021's football season. Your money year going into the draft is the one that they have circled. Here you are. Here it is. I expect him to be just elite. From the first snap of the season to the final game, I think that Derek Stingley is the best player on your team. Potentially he's the best player in the conference. Potentially he's the best player in college football. Really. And I think that Eli Ricks could be in that discussion too, as somebody that has that type of fear that they strike at a defensive coordinator. I mean, Ricks is he is a gamer, man. I mean, he is a dog. He is a killer. He is everything you want in a cornerback. He's arrogant, cocky, and he's got amnesia. You know what I mean? He thinks he's the best player on the field, and if you get him, he's going to forget about it by the end of that play. And he's barking right back at you on second down. I mean, Ricks, to me, is an arrogant Stingley. He's a cocky Stingley. He's a he's Stingley talent with a Deion Sanders mentality. I love him. I mean, Ricks and Stingley to me are the two best. And that's why I think LSU has a lot of attention coming their way, is because people see them, those two guys. But then you start digging into this defense and you're like, oh shit. I mean, they got players at every level. Ali Gay's a pro, potential first rounder. BJ Ojulari's a pro, potential first rounder. Jaquelin Roy, they expect to rocket launch into college football's, discussion of defensive linemen that make a difference every single week. So, I mean, I'm just giving you three names on the front end of that defense that could be like first-class football players that you talk about every single week for LSU. Linebacker was a huge area of concern last year. They upgraded it. I mean, Bug Strong is the number one JUCO linebacker in the country that couldn't play in the spring game because, I mean, he was busting too many heads in practice. Like, they had to worry about, bro, chill. I mean, we don't need concussions in April. You know what I mean? Just chill out, man. Because he is just a headhunter. I mean, he's looking to separate the football from the ball carrier every play. But you got to love a linebacker. Mike Jones is going to play. Damone Clark, Micah Baskerville. You got talent, you got depth, you got experience. I mean, think about where linebacker was when you pulled out or you left the Ole Miss game. What you were thinking about, what was going to be at linebacker for LSU this upcoming season. I mean, it was a huge cause of concern. Now they feel very secure there. We mentioned the cornerbacks, and then you talk about the safeties, another position that they were worried about leaving last year going into this season. You move Jay Ward. You go get two of the top three safeties in the country in Sage Ryan and Davis, Derek Davis out of Pennsylvania. Matthew Langlois in the class, who they've absolutely fallen in love with. And then you pick up Major Burns off the transfer portal. When Ogeron speaks last week to the Rotary Club, he pretty much names him the starter. I mean, we hadn't even mentioned Todd Harris or Dwight McLaughlin. So, I mean, there are so many storylines. There's so much competition. There's so many names to be watching out for. LSU is absolutely stacked on defense, loaded on defense. They've got a couple of question marks on offense that they need to answer, but there's got to be high expectation around LSU going into fall camp to be a contender. When you just look at their roster, when you just think about the way that they've recruited, when you just think about the guys that they have coming back, to the changes on the coaching staff. I mean, all of that stuff gets going today, man. All that stuff gets moving. All those discussions start to shake out. All those questions begin to get answered here early on in fall camp. And you'll know within the first couple of days. That's the beautiful thing about football, in my opinion, is that there is competition every single day. But it usually shows, you rep these guys enough, you usually know within the first 3-4 days on who the guy's going to be. Who's the better player? Who stands out? Who moves quicker? Who's got quicker twitch? Who doesn't drop the ball? Who runs better routes? All of that stuff that's being evaluated, all of that stuff starts to rise to the top or, fall down to the bottom. This is the beautiful part about, figuring out and getting prepared for football season. It's here, man. It begins. It begins today with reporting, and there's not too much news that'll come. You get fitted for helmets and get your gear and get everything going, team meetings and all of that stuff. But there's NFL football tonight on your television in Canton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame game, and college football is here. It's pretty much the first day of school. Everybody's reporting, everybody's getting there, everybody's getting all their gear, their equipment, getting set to go. Daily, we're brought to you by Go Chevrolet. Remember, online at GEAUXChevrolet.com. Go Chevrolet is conveniently located out in Laplace, Louisiana. Stop in and see them there, or check out Go Express Auto Sales, a used car lot over here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, on the corner of Florida Boulevard and Sherwood Forest. Go Express Auto Sales and Go Chevrolet is all online at Go Chevrolet, GEAUXChevrolet.com. We're back with more of the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet every day. Proud to announce Go Express Auto Sales, the new used car lot located in the capital city of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Go Express Auto Sales is online at goexpressautosales.com, or you can search them on Facebook and social media at Go Express Auto Sales, the newest addition to the family of Go Chevrolet. Remember, Go Chevrolet is located down in Laplace, Louisiana, but now welcoming aboard Go Express, the new used car lot located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show live here on this Thursday morning. Appreciate you for being out there. Always appreciate your interaction, whether you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, you're on the new JordyCulottaShow.com. What's your feedback there? You've been to the website, check it out. You can work with your PC, your smart device with the Jordy Culotta Show audio or video in the background. So if that helps you out in just your efficiency with being able to tune into us, hopefully that helps you out. That was one of the pain points that we heard back from some of the listeners of not being able to minimize or not being able to put it in the background and work with our show playing. And hopefully over at JordyCulottaShow.com that has been figured out and can help you out. Please give us some feedback, as we appreciate all of that. Like, share, comment, anything that you or any platform that you are watching on. Please continue to support us over here, for we appreciate that very much as daily. We are brought to you by GoFlow IV and Spa. Remember, go see them today over on Jefferson Highway, Baton Rouge's premier medical spa, specializing in IV hydration treatments with vitamin infusion. I took a picture the other day. Kelly and I took a picture, and Kelly posted it on social media. My mom told me that I looked a little younger, and she was asking what was going on. Like, what have you done? You look a little different. You look like you got a little life in your face. What's going on with you? I said, it's got to be GoFlow. I mean, it has to be. It's got to be the 2 IV treatments that we've already taken over the last month. I can tell you that my energy is better, and that I'm sleeping a whole lot better. And I think that it is compliments to GoFlow IV and Spa. Remember, you can get memberships that are available at 3 months, 6 months. You can get annual memberships. They're located on Jefferson Highway. It is a great service over there with Brett and his team. Whether it is you're looking to cure dehydration, skin, hair, beauty care, athletic performance, illness recovery, hangover cures, or if you've just got chronic illness and you're looking to feel better, there is great treatments available for you over at GoFlow IV Spa Health and Wellness, located on Jefferson Highway. Easy just to find all about them at online at GoFlowIV.com. A lot of people talking about some of what we were discussing in the opening segment here of LSU football, getting on the field, and some of the storylines to watch and some of the names to look out for here as training camp gets going, and along the offensive line. You know, we were talking about some of the names that you just don't know, right? Like Marcus Dumerville. Remember him in recruiting? Mm-hmm. 5-star, 4-star. Some people had him at a 5-star, but one of the top tackles to come out during his recruiting cycle.
He looks leaner.
He does look good. He comes out of the famous St. Thomas Aquinas High School down there in Lauderdale Lakes, Florida. I mean, just a factory, a football factory over there on the east coast of Florida. But Dumerville is now in his second season, which you feel like he should take a step ahead. Charles Turner, who we've talked about a lot, throughout camps and throughout sessions of guys that could step in and give you some sense of depth, has been discussed. Marlon Martinez is another one who came in and played some last year. He's from St. Thomas Aquinas as well. Him and Dumerville were high school teammates down there at the Fort Lauderdale Lakes High School in the state of Florida. So he comes in to his second season. He played a little bit last year, so he didn't redshirt. Xavier Hill is a redshirt freshman that we continue to hear about, who's got the capability to play at different positions. Thomas Perry was hurt last season. He was out of Lafayette as he played down at Turlings Catholic and was somebody who has real good size. He's now on the offensive line as a guard. He was signed as a tackle, but is going to be somebody that can provide you depth along the offensive line. So the names are there, right? Cardell Thomas, mm-hmm. He's there. I mean, he's got a chance.
Head scratching case.
It is. I mean, it is the curious case of Cardell Thomas. It has been the storyline up to this point. Definitely the most asked about player over the last 4 months on where he has gone, what has happened to him. Can he potentially get out onto the field and play? It just does not seem like it has worked out for him up to this point. Now, he had a bad injury his freshman season with his ankle that just it didn't seem to recover on the timeline that the program would have liked, which set him back as far as playing time went. And now, as a redshirt sophomore and a new coach at his position, you would think that now would be the time. This would be the chance.
Rewrite the script.
Where you could do that.
If you're not playing this year, I mean, those guys, Dumerville, those backup guys, you're not playing this year. It's like, when are you going to play?
Well, to me, I think it is in between, like your second and third season in college football is where you should be like the solidify yourself as a starter. You know what I mean? In between year 1 and 2, you should be scratching for playing time, getting some of that playing time, solidifying yourself as, kind of the player that you are. And then by the time that you're in your third year in college football, if you're not a headline player or a starter, you really have to be asking yourself, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Because there's either somebody behind you that's younger than you that's taking reps away from you, or you're not good enough to beat the guy in front of you. Right. I mean, you're kind of stuck in the middle of, purgatory. Right.
I mean, like last year, if someone went down, they would say on interviews, like they wouldn't know who to put in there. Just, Cam Wire. And if it's not Cam Wire, they wouldn't know.
No.
That was so alarming.
It seems like it's going to be the true freshman Garrett Dellinger this year. I mean, like they still don't know.
Cam Wire.
They still don't know. I mean, I think that's what we were talking about as far as, just storylines in camp that you hope to get figured out very quickly is the offensive line depth chart.
J-Boy said it best. You got to play 8. You have to have 8 deep on the line.
Yeah, you do. And LSU doesn't have 8.
I mean, it does help you playing against the best defensive line every day.
It could get you ready, but it could also set you back because
mentally.
Mentally and physically. Like I said, more importantly than anything on this offensive line is they have to stay healthy. Like this group, they have no more room to lose any frontline guy. And any back-end guy that you lose at this point really affects you almost just as much as losing a starter because, I mean, it's kind of going hand in hand here in the sense, like you say, you need 8, right? I mean, you got to find your best. I think it's fair to say that LSU's really just kind of looking for 6 at this point that they can trust. I mean, it's not ideal. It's not what you want. And it'll probably fail you if that's your formula every year. And you can possibly get by with it, one season if everybody can stay healthy. But they need to build the stable up to where they got 8 guys that they can count on, but they're just not there right now. And possibly they do get there because of some of the names that we mentioned that take steps forward. I think that Xavier Hill has a tremendous opportunity on this team. I mean, just some of the things that I have heard about Xavier Hill, to me, his mentality and his skill set fits exactly with what LSU needs to do. I mean, he can play guard, he can play tackle. He's mean, aggressive. He's been waiting on his opportunity. He's motivated. To me, this is his season. He was a redshirt guy last year. In between year 1 and 2, you're looking for playing time. You're trying to get on the field. There's playing time available. Go grab it, man. Go get it. You know what I mean? Marlon Martinez played spot time last year. He got some good experience, played against Florida.
Yeah, I think Deculus went down that game.
Yeah.
Injured and served serviceable.
Had to go. As a true freshman. I mean, that's the position that they're in from a personnel standpoint. He had to go. He had to play. And he went out there and was able to get really quality snaps, played at a high level, got really good experience, and now going into year 2, he should be vying for playing time. He should be pushing for playing time, especially in a spot that's very shaky going into camp as a guard spot. I mean, Chasen Hines has shown that he can play at a high level, and that when he's playing right, he can play at an all-SEC type caliber click, but there's just too much inconsistency. I mean, you've seen both ends of the spectrum with Hines.
Shanahan developed throughout the season. It was a rough project at first. It was like, oh my God.
We said yesterday, and I said earlier, I think that Shanahan is one of the most irreplaceable parts on this team. I mean, I'm trying to think of guys outside of Max Johnson that you could lose. And that's Chase and Hines, I guess. I mean, Charles Turner, maybe. Anthony Bradford is another name that we've heard a lot about, you know what I mean? But there's just so much unproven data on, there's just so much unproven personnel on LSU's offensive line that you just don't know. I mean, they could be good.
Yeah, you'll find
out. You know what I mean?
Today.
I mean, for as much as I'm talking about them seemingly in a negative tone just because of the uncertainty, in the same sense,
you have to.
Some of these guys could step in and be the guys that you thought they were in recruiting and take that step forward and solidify a position and a group that you are shaky and a little anxious on and give you confidence. Mm-hmm. I mean, if let's say Chase and Hines comes into camp and he looks fit and he's ready to play and he grabs that right guard spot, says, "Look, man, the competition's over. There's no competition. I know I'm the best player. I'm going to play like it every day. I'm going to practice like it every day, and there's going to be no question to who the right guard." Okay, good. Boom. Got that figured out real quick. So now you've got one of the starting roles that you're a little shaky on figured out. Same sense in Cam Wire. Cam Wire, the opportunity that he had last season, he really stepped in and played well at times. I mean, that Vanderbilt highlight where he's running down the field, freeing up, is it John Emery or Trey Palmer? John Emery. I mean, that's big time. If he makes it to the league, you'll see that highlight, over and over again. If he can play like that, you got a great opportunity, Cam Wire. If you want the left tackle spot, it's yours. And then these guys that are behind them, at some point, the offensive line is going to have to play a 6th, 7th, potentially 8th, maybe even a 9th guy. So, if you're on that line and you want playing time, that's why I just don't understand if you're a recruit out there and you want playing time, if that's so important to you. And really, when you talk about the Georgias, the Clemsons, the Alabamas, the Texas
Arkansas,
A&Ms,
Iowa,
the teams that are always going to be talked about in college football. Everybody's going to watch them on TV. Everybody's going to talk about them on SportsCenter. Everybody's going to talk about them on the SEC network. Those types of brands. Then if you're looking at those teams and they're all after you and your big pitch or your big point is, I want playing time, well then, bro, you need to be in Baton Rouge because all they have is playing time. Like, really. I mean, if you're Thomas Perry, guy that was hurt last year, that, was set back. I mean, if he's looking at what the scenario is in front of his face, he's got to be thinking, I can play.
Yeah.
I mean, I can play right now. The same goes for Doomerville. The same goes for Bradford. The same goes for Turner. Hell, the same goes for Cardell Thomas, man. It's now or never for some of these guys. It really is.
Especially if you want to go 5 out. Gotta be able to block.
5 wide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to block.
Absolutely.
And then this. It's
the pressure falls on the offensive line if you don't have a quarterback like Burrow who understands timing and getting the ball out of his hand. Everybody says they want to run spread, and everybody says that the spread is the best scheme. But if you don't have the personnel to run spread, you got a quarterback that wants to dance around and hold the football and he goes 3 and out, the first 3 out of the first 4 possessions of the game, well, you're dead. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Your defense is dead. You've gassed them out, and the spread's just not going to work because you don't have the right guys to run it. So, the offensive line, if they can answer it early on and they can be a strong point, LSU might be a running team.
Right.
For the majority of the season. I think that's what's happening down in New Orleans. And I think that Sean Payton, they're turning it into a run-first team.
We got 2 workhorses.
And also because they have to.
Because the personnel dictates that.
Right.
The personnel tells you that's who you have to be.
It's a good coach.
And just like we talk about the offensive line as a weak point right now just because of the uncertainty, during camp, first part of the season, they could become a strong suit. Some of these guys answer the bell and say, hey, look, man, it's my job. I'm playing. And they solidify the confidence in the coaching. And, you got 1 or 2 running backs that emerges, whether it's Armani Goodwin and Ty Davis-Price or John Emery and Corey Kiner. Whatever the combination is, and you got two guys that you can trust, hey, man, they just might turn and run it 35 times a game, 35 times a game. I mean, and just throw it when you got to.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that's out of the question. I think that Bryce Young in Alabama is going to do that with Bill O'Brien. I think that LSU potentially could do that because of their, some of their personnel hang-ups or setbacks that they've experienced. For as much as we've seen spread dominate and take over college football, and it'll still be here, it'll just be a spread run style first. I think that there will be some run-heavy teams. I mean, think about Alabama and LSU's offense over the last 2 years. Potentially the two best offenses in college football history.
Yeah.
Right? If LSU wasn't, then Alabama was. If Alabama wasn't, then LSU was. Those are the last two offenses that the sport has seen. Those two programs are going to, try and be as similar to that as far as production goes, but they're going to take different routes to get there.
Right.
I mean, they're not going to throw for what they did during those seasons as far as the yardage goes, but they may be as potent and as electric with what they can do.
I mean, that's what makes you such a great coach. Sean Payton is an offensive mastermind,
right.
And then you find out this week Taysom Hill is my quarterback, and he can completely make a new game plan to make Taysom Hill look great. You just can't be repeating the past. You just can't copy and paste what you want in 2019. I get close to where success is found, but it can't be a carbon copy.
Right.
You have to realize who you have, who's your personnel. And a lot's going to fall on, if you want playing time as running back, you got to be able to pass block.
Yeah, it's going to fall on being able to protect Max Johnson, which is obviously the biggest point we're making with the O-line is they have to protect Max Johnson because you're one snap away from putting Nussmeier in the game.
Yeah.
And taking a meaningful snap. And so the same thing goes for the running backs.
I mean, Ty Davis probably was already a bulky running back. He looked so light. He was able to cut, make moves upfield. And that can be a workhorse back.
Yeah.
That guy can take 20, 25 rushes a game.
Daily, we're brought to you by Johnson and Spillers. Remember, they are our dentist over here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Get in touch with Dr. Johnson and Dr. Spillers. Dr. Chad Spillers and Dr. Johnson are located in Gonzales and in Baton Rouge. Stop in and see them. Or online at johnsonandspillers.com. They got great social media, Facebook and Instagram. Easy to find them there.
When do you have to go in next?
I am back in the middle of September for another procedure on the mouth that will be another 3 months.
Oh, man.
It's been a hell of a run, boys. It's been a hell of a run. So
like
I mean, you can do everything. But you can do everything.
Out.
It's incredible. You can do everything over there, from extract a tooth or get just the basic teeth cleaning, or like Kelly did a couple of weeks back. She got some Botox, and has seen a lot of people walk in there and get some Botox. It's definitely something that they offer and they can do for you. Check them out online at johnsonspillers.com, johnsonspillers.com. In the second hour today, we're going to talk to Ben Baby at 8:15. Ben Baby from Cincinnati. He's up in Cincinnati covering the Bengals for ESPN.com. We'll get caught up on Joe. We'll get caught up on Jamar. We'll ask him how Thaddeus Moss is fitting into the attack here early on in training camp. What the expectation for the Bengals are, and their offensive line questions. How are they going to protect Burrow here in year two coming off that devastating knee injury? 8:30 this morning, we'll talk to Makin Money, who is now up at Barstool. Tonight there is football action to be played and be bet and be gambled on. We will get some of the feelings from Megan as she's got a couple of leads for us here, not only on tonight's preseason action, but we'll get some futures on some college football, some over and unders from her on the NFL, and some of the storylines to watch out from a gambling standpoint as far as this NFL and college football season are concerned. Remember, daily we are driven by Go Chevrolet. Give us a couple of seconds here. We will reset and be back with the 8 o'clock hour right here on the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet every day. Gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022. 225-485-8022 is where you can find Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location. All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Remember, every day we're brought to you by Abear Specialty Meats. I'll be over in Prairieville at the location this morning as soon as we get off. Great location over there in Prairieville, just off of the Highway 73 exit right there before Dutchtown High School. Freezer full of great selections, like the deboned stuffed chicken, which, of course, Abear's is known for. But great selections of boudin balls. They have
chicken salad now, right?
Boudin, yep.
How
chicken salad. That's over here in Baton Rouge, the
Okay.
chicken salad sandwich for lunch. But great selections over here in Baton Rouge.
Meatball sub.
Yes. Abear Specialty Meats, located in Baton Rouge on Jefferson Highway and out in Gonzales on Highway 73, right there before Dutchtown. Bringing you today's Jordy Culotta Show. We'll talk to Ben Baby coming up here at 8:15 here in a couple of minutes. 8:30, Megan Makin Money. We'll talk to Megan about what's going on with some of the NFL games coming up as preseason action starts tonight. Hit this mic real quick. Let me get this cough out. I was holding it. I was trying to fight it. Couldn't fight it.
Yeah, it's the mental block.
Could you hear it?
I can't do
Could
that.
you hear me trying to fight it? Papa Earls.
All cool
Shout out
when
to
you're
Papa Earls.
talking.
Ben Baby. We'll talk to Ben about Burrow, the crew, everybody up at Cincinnati
It
getting
blows
ready.
my mind. I'll see them trot out to practice. I'm like, they're really practicing on a little high school rinky-dinky practice field.
Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they practice right behind.
Oh, it's right next to the
like the
interstate,
interstates going on. I mean, like it really is unbelievable.
I kind of like it because it's like the last frontier.
Yeah, it is
But
very
then again,
old school.
It gets very cold in Cincinnati.
It is,
quick.
yes, it does, and they don't have any indoor. They have no indoor. Is that unbelievable?
Oh,
How can you be a professional
crazy.
team, pay this guy
Ohio.
$30 million, and you don't have an indoor facility for him to practice in?
So, I mean, it's like high school. Like, if
it
it
is-
rains, you
it
have
is
no practice.
Literal high school.
That
That's
is
crazy.
I mean, it's literal high school. We'll ask Ben about the structure of that and how that is going to change. Two of the largest brands, Copper, come here, get out of there. Two of the largest brands in NFL football tonight will be the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers playing in the Hall of Fame game, as that will be the first taste that we get of preseason action. But it will also set up this weekend's Hall of Fame commencement, which will induct the new members of the class, and there will be LSU flair yet again here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. South Louisiana has been very well represented over the past couple of Hall of Fame enshrinements, as the New Orleans Saints, of course, and Willie Roaf and all of the success that the Saints have had. Tom Benson, of course, being named, having his name on the Hall of Fame, and then, of course, seeing Kevin Mawai go in a couple of years back to now Alan Faneca.
Who's in this class?
Is a part of this class. This class is going to be Peyton Manning's the headliner. So Manning's going to be the headliner, which To me, that is going to be must-watch television.
Right. He's got the jokes
of Peyton Manning and his enshrinement
Omaha
speech.
here and there. A little
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun to see his personality, because if you remember his retirement speech, I mean, it was very teary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was gut-wrenching. Watching Manning walk away from the game in that Denver press conference, where it was it was a press room that was full of media members and everybody was kind of jammed in there, and Manning was standing at the podium, and he broke down about leaving the game. So obviously, football
his last two seasons
meant
were so sad.
They were, but I mean, he walks out a winner.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, nobody will remember the fact that he threw, I think, like 8 touchdowns his final year.
He couldn't throw it. Torn quad.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't grip the ball, but he did throw a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So it'll be interesting to hear Manning with his his humorous personality, and the love of the game be on display at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I mean, I think that Peyton Manning probably envisioned this day for a long time in his football life, and now here it comes. I mean, I think it's going to be must-watch television on Saturday night. So Peyton Manning
Megatron
is the headline. Calvin Johnson is probably the kind of the second tier on the sign out front, kind of bringing you in. Calvin Johnson, and then Tom Flores. Hang on, let me catch this door real quick.
You know what's crazy? Calvin Johnson's going to be in the Hall of Fame today, and he's only 35 years old.
Yeah, what he retired at what, 29?
Yeah,
30, yeah.
entirely too early.
Yeah.
Screw this.
God,
That's Lions Stadium,
the
man.
Detroit fan base.
How do you do that?
I mean, they saw Barry Sanders walk away from the game in his prime,
And then the most freak
and then they saw
wide
Calvin
receiver.
Johnson leave the game and retire in his prime. That's got to be some of the
I mean, John,
just most
Heartbreaking.
depressing, heartbreaking feelings as a fan. Just the what could have been is what kills you in
I
sports.
mean, it's like Drew Brees retiring in like 2012.
right.
Just
It'd
getting
been like
up outta
Breeze,
here.
like walking away right, like after one of his most dominant seasons. Just it was Michael Jordan walking away in 93.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just like, what? Where are you going, man? Yeah, right.
Johnson is 6'5", 240, and ran a 4.3.
Have you ever heard Lane Kiffin tell the story about trying to talk Al Davis out of drafting Jamarcus Russell and to take Calvin Johnson?
No,
That's who Lane Kiffin
Yeah,
wanted. He wanted
right.
Calvin Johnson rather than Jamarcus Russell. And I mean, there was no winning, there was no getting over on Al Davis at the time. He had fallen in love with Jamarcus Russell. He went to the Sugar Bowl game in which Jamarcus he looked like a video game against Notre Dame's defense. I mean, everything that he threw was being caught by Craig Davis and Dwayne Bowe and Early Doucette. And I mean, they went buck wild versus that Notre Dame team. And Kiffin wanted Johnson and said ultimately what Johnson's career was. Kiffin said that's what it was going to be to Al Davis. I mean, they went to Georgia Tech's pro day, and Lane Kiffin said it's the best pro day I've ever seen. I mean, he was unbelievable how just freakish he was. And I mean, I told Mr. Davis, he said, if we think about taking anybody but Calvin Johnson, we will regret it for the rest. Right. I mean, the guy he could potentially be the best wide receiver ever.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Randy Moss. I mean, he's.
I mean, it didn't matter how many defenders you put on him.
No.
He'd be triple teamed and jump
Knocks you
over
out.
all of them.
He was unbelievable. So he's going in.
Jamarcus Russell. I love that tape story. Jamarcus, you watched the tape?
Did you watch the tape last
Of course I
night?
did.
Yeah, absolutely, I watched the tape.
Those blitz packages.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, tape
What
was
stood
playing.
out?
Tape was playing Jamarcus.
The Seattle blitz packages. Oh, okay, cool, man. The tape was blank, you idiot. But I mean, some of the Jamarcus stories are classic. But it's great to see that Jamarcus is doing great now. I mean, like he's doing good, and he's back around LSU, and he really is. He's a joy to talk to. I mean, he's always in a good mood. He's smiling, and he's doing some quarterback stuff in what he should be doing. But just because, I mean, he's a natural, man. I mean, the way that he can throw a football is scary.
Sling it.
Scary. So you got Peyton Manning, you got Calvin Johnson, John Lynch, the safety for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, now the general manager for the San Francisco 49ers. is going to be in this class, and Lynch was another one that was a little ahead of his time. I mean, he was a guy that was on that Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense that won the Super Bowl versus the Oakland Raiders. And he was, along with Derek Brooks and along with Warren Sapp and Booger McFarland and Rondé Barber, the defensive back. They put together one of the great defensive runs in Super Bowl history, as that team was just phenomenal. They were so good and so fun to watch. Mike Allstott was their running back. Warwick Dunn was in there. Warwick Dunn wasn't on the Super Bowl team, but he was a part of those teams. Brad Johnson, Max's dad, was the Super Bowl winning quarterback. Big Bad Brad was the quarterback on John Lynch's championship squad. So Peyton Manning, Calvin Johnson, John Lynch, and then Alan Faneca. Faneca is somebody that is probably recognized as the face of the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line through the early parts of Mike Tomlin's run and the last parts of Bill Cowher. They won a Super Bowl versus Seattle in Detroit. And Alan Faneca, still to this day, has maybe the most recognizable Steelers moment from that Super Bowl run. When you think about they ran a toss trap to Willie Parker, their fast running back who was in there for Jerome Bettis. This was Jerome Bettis' last game as a Pittsburgh Steeler, and they followed Alan Faneca pulling. And Faneca is a great NFL film shot of him pulling into the hole and just clearing out the hole for Willie Parker that springs him on to I think it's the longest touchdown run in Super Bowl history still to this day. I think it's 70+ yards, and Faneca was the face of that. But he was an All-Pro, a guy that made Pro Bowls, and really somebody that was just a tremendous NFL player. And will be recognized and enshrined this weekend in the NFL Hall of Fame.
You're not even
which
being
will be
hyperbolic.
cool.
I just saw a YouTube video that says Alan Faneca makes the greatest block in Super Bowl history. I mean, that hole is just massive.
And the way that it was captured is incredible, man. I mean, him pulling. I mean, it just clearing out. I mean, it's textbook. It's textbook. In fact, Faneca leading the way for Herb Tyler in his touchdown run when LSU upset then #1 Florida, Steve Spurrier and the Gators, which was kind of like LSU's claim to fame before the golden years.
Right.
For as much as LSU has been on a high for the last 20 years in football, before that, all they really had, all the fan base really had, was a 1997 night in Tiger Stadium when Spurrier and Florida came in here as #1 in the country, and LSU beat them. And one of the moments that stands out early on in that game is Herb Tyler on a quarterback keeper being led down the field by he's almost like holding on to Faneca as he's running down the sideline, and then as Faneca hits his block, Tyler just explodes into the end zone, into a beautiful, raucous Tiger Stadium moment that will live on forever. But that was Faneca's era of LSU football. Not the best of times,
right.
Not the best records, not the best win-loss, not the best experiences, but they did have that moment where they beat Florida, and Faneca went on to become, really just the face of the Pittsburgh Steelers for a while. He was
the anchor, yeah.
He was the guy that really was recognized as a Steeler during that Cowher run in the early days of Mike Tomlin, and now to see him, there was kind of a push and pull. Nobody knew who was going to get in first into the Hall of Fame. Was it going to be Mawai or was it going to be Faneca? Both guys. Faneca had come in a little bit after Mawai, and Mawai's career ended a little earlier. So as far as the timeline was concerned, you figured it would have been Mawai, but over the last couple of years, it started to get a little tight because both of them became Hall of Fame eligible. And Faneca and Mawai were on the ballot together, and some people believed kind of within football that Faneca would make it and get his gold jacket before Mawai did. Now, Mawai was recognized a couple of years back. He's an NFL Hall of Famer, a Pro Football Hall of Famer, and now Faneca will have his chance to walk across the stage on Saturday night. And then the next one is Charles Woodson. You know, I mean, like we left Woodson out. He was just phenomenal. You know, he's the last defensive player to win a Heisman Trophy in college football. He went on to an exceptional career with the Green Bay Packers and the Oakland Raiders. But I still see him making those highlights as a Michigan Wolverine, man. The punt return versus Ohio State. I see him biting the rose after to get that Rose Bowl victory. And then a play versus Michigan State, and this was Nick Saban. This was Nick Saban's Michigan team that he was playing against. And you can pull this video up, pull this highlight up and check it out. They're playing Michigan State, Woodson's senior year, and he's like playing defensive back, and the Michigan State quarterback's rolling towards his left and just kind of throws the ball up for grabs. And Woodson comes out of nowhere and grabs it with one hand and taps his foot inbounds. And I think it happens in front of Saban, and Saban's even kind of like,
right.
I mean, his reaction is like, oh, my God. But it was, I remember being a kid watching that and thinking, like, that's unbelievable. Like, what did we just see? You know, like, I mean, that is one of the best highlights that I've ever seen in football.
I don't think it's still like one hand, 1 foot. Like that.
One hand, 1 foot, and he comes out. He's like shot out of a cannon. I mean, he's almost like not even in the television screen, and he just comes into the screen out of nowhere and makes the play.
Back with Michigan was something.
Yeah, I mean that was they won the Natty that year.
Downhill since.
I mean, that was like Brian Greasy and that team that won the national championship.
How do you fix that? How do you fix Michigan?
Kill Ohio State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Harbaugh, man, you gotta go. It's not the guy.
And then the last member of the Hall of Fame class this weekend will be Tom Flores, which is an older coach, a coach who brought the Raiders to a championship. Also, was one of the first coaches up in Seattle with the Seahawks, or a longtime Seattle Seahawk coach. So a great class this weekend at the NFL Hall of Fame, or the Pro Football Hall of Fame. With the class will be headlined by Peyton Manning. He'll have some New Orleans flair there, obviously, with his that being his home city, and him.
Will Archie be there?
I think Archie's presenting him. Yeah, I think Archie's his presenter.
It's going to be an awesome moment.
It's going to be incredible.
Hey, quick text me,
I mean, Arch will be there.
Yeah.
Arch will be in the crowd. Cooper will be there. Eli will be there. I mean, the entire family will be there. I'd imagine that you'll see Philip Fulmer and a lot of the Tennessee contingency in Canton this weekend. I'd imagine you'd see a lot of people from Newman High School there. I mean, a lot of the same people that are coaching and teaching Arch coached and taught Eli and Peyton. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know what the COVID protocol will be as far as people can go to Canton, but if at full capacity, it will be cool to see a lot of the familiar faces.
I want to see Omaha in the speech.
There's no way he doesn't like toss a little Omaha in there.
Got
somewhere.
to. Probably early on. I saw where he was asked about the big red mark on his forehead like earlier this week. I mean, it was just like he couldn't find a helmet that could get over he couldn't find a helmet to get over the hump. I mean, pretty much. Megan Makin Money next here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Remember, daily, we are brought to you by Edward Jones. Edward Jones is located out there in central Louisiana. Stop in and see Daniel Newman. Daniel.Newman at edwardjones.com. Let him be your financial advisor. He has helped us out with so many questions. He can answer yours. Get in touch with me today at Daniel.Newman at edwardjones.com. Megan Makin Money next.
I still can't believe that interception.
Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. NFL football gets going tonight with preseason action up in Canton, Ohio for the annual NFL Hall of Fame game over at Tom Benson Stadium in Canton, Ohio. That means that we will start to get a lot of our gambling picks on, and Barstool made a great addition to their staff here during the summer months as they brought in one of Louisiana's own to add to the addition of the Southern flavor that they already have up there in New York City with our guy Ben Mintz, who's absolutely killing it up at Barstool. But a huge hire came across the wire a couple of weeks back, and we still not had a chance to catch up with our girl. Things have just kind of like happened. One morning she was supposed to be here. That was the morning I was puking on air when I had to leave and get out of here and go vomit while the show was happening. And then the next week, I believe we were offshore fishing. Last Thursday we were down off the Gulf Coast and fishing and weren't able to catch up with Megan Makin Money. But she's going to be here every Thursday, and this is a long time overdue. But congratulations on the new gig, as she was hired over at Barstool Sports as well. They recognize the talent, they see the flair, they see the social media numbers and the following, the personality, and they said they got to get some of that. And Barstool Sports and Dave Portnoy made the move to make the addition for Megan Makin Money onto the crew up there in New York City. She's working from down in South Louisiana, but now a part of the Barstool team and here every Thursday on the Jordy Culotta Show. Congratulations. Good morning. Sorry for the delay. Good to talk to you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm glad you're not puking anymore.
Yes.
So that's a good sign.
Yes, thank you.
And, I'm excited to be back with y'all. It has been a minute.
I know that you've told the story countless times up until now. I'm sorry to be late to the party, but catch our listeners up on just the whirlwind of your life over the last month and a half of the moves that you have made now going into football season.
All right, so I was actually kind of on the 1 yard deal with signing back with FanDuel, and I wanted to sign my contract before I went on vacation a couple months back to Colorado, but they told me it would take a second. So I was like, no big deal. I can wait on it. So we go up to Colorado, and first day we unplug. It was great. The second day, all of a sudden, I get this phone call from a frantic Ben Mintz. And he's saying, have you signed? Have you signed? I would do my Ben Mintz voice, but it's too early in the morning. Right. And I was like, no, I haven't. But, we're right there. We're about to get this deal done. He was like, don't sign anything. Don't sign anything. Wow. And so, I called my agent. And, Ben had only been up there about a month or so at this point. And he was like, unless somebody else calls you, I know you and Ben have, a history. Y'all are friends. So unless somebody like Prez or Erica calls you, I wouldn't put too much stock into that right now. And so I was like, okay. And so I just went around, doing Colorado things for the next 24 hours. Then that next morning I woke up and had a DM from Prez.
Wow.
So that's what made it all real. And I explained to him, hey, I'm on the 1 yard line with an old company. I don't want to screw them over. They did tell me that it could take up to a month. And he said, if they wanted you, that contract would be done. So after I talked to Prez, within 72 hours of me getting back from Colorado, I was on the phone with Erica Nardini, who's the CEO, and with Gaz, who's the content guy, and he's been one of the original Barstool, starters since the beginning. I had the conversation with them on Sunday, which I thought was absolutely just amazing, talking to a CEO on a Sunday morning, like where she's able to make time for me. And that same day I had a contract faxed to me, ready to go. So talked to Dave, got home, had a meeting with Erica, had a contract in my hand ready for me to sign on Sunday. Beautiful. And it just seemed like too good of a fit for me personally and my brand. I'm a little brash sometimes. I sometimes say some inappropriate.
You're an asshole. You can be an asshole sometimes. Yes.
Yeah, that's me. So I just felt like that was a much better spot for me and my brand. And look, I don't just bet. I talk about 1,000 different things, and that's where I feel like with FanDuel, well, they were great to me, and it's a great company and a great book and all that. That wasn't where I feel like I was going to be able to shine. And I feel like here at Barstool, there's so many opportunities, especially with the Penn properties in Louisiana. I just visited one this last weekend in Baton Rouge. It was absolutely amazing. It's been a whirlwind, but it's been absolutely awesome. And I did get to go up to New York and meet everybody and get my ass kicked on live stream with Dave and Big Cat. That was all a great time.
It was, and you know what? I thought that was a great example of your personality, because not a lot of people can sit there and take that. In that room, opening night, making your debut at Barstool Sports, I can just imagine the pressure of just that scenario alone, and then the entire company is looking at you for a winner in the home run derby.
In a home run derby,
right, man. I mean, just not the ideal opening line that you'd like to bet at your new job, but that room was great, and I think that was kind of who y'all are, and who y'all are aspiring to be in adding you, because when you saw all those personalities together in one room, you could see how it worked.
Yeah, we definitely got some great feedback with that. A lot of people enjoyed the fact that even though I hadn't even been working for 24 hours yet, I was willing to give it back to Dave.
Yeah.
Right. That at that point, I was just so angry. That was just natural me. I didn't care. I could have been the president of the United States, and I still would have talked exactly like that, probably because I was that angry. But look, that's what happens. And I've been on the coldest streak ever all through the month of July since, I think it's a Barstool curse. I really think someone up there has a voodoo doll or something that's put pins in my pockets, because this last month has been a rough going with MLB. But we're chugging. We've had a decent last couple of days in this month of August, so we're going to plan on keeping the winners coming.
With football season on the horizon, what is your responsibility? What can we be looking for from you contributing to Barstool?
Okay, you can definitely look for. I mean, my whole spiel is I put out picks every single day. I want y'all to always gamble responsibly, do your own research. But my picks, for whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's college football, whether it's college basketball, my picks will be out every day. So definitely look for preseason promos. I know that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but we're giving away some Barstool merchandise, the Barstool Sportsbook merchandise. Throw $50 on a preseason game. Win or lose, you get, a badass hoodie. And a lot of the times, I'm going to be putting a lot of research into these preseason games. There's a ton of stats. There's, a ton of coaches that care and don't care, whether it's Harbaugh or Peyton. You got to pay attention to those coaches that think those are just practice throwaway games. So that's the first football move. We're going to get through baseball here, but my first football move will be some preseason promos, and then going into. They also hired another gambler, Kelly in Vegas, who is humongous over over the gambling community, especially over on the West Coast. Her and I are definitely going to be doing some football content together, along with me and Mincy, of course.
Nice.
Whenever he gets down here, we're going to try to hit up some LSU games, some Ole Miss games, and really show everybody what the South and the SEC, my SEC, not this bull with all these other teams joining.
It's cool. We're on radio. You can cuss. It's all good.
Okay. This bullshit with all these other teams going. We're going to show everybody why the true SEC is the best conference in the entire world. And Ben and I are just really excited to show off how cool the South is.
Saw LSU sitting at 8.5 wins going into the season, over under. How do you like LSU when you look at them just from a future betting standpoint?
So obviously with the unfortunate Miles news, I was really hoping he was going to get the job, and I was really looking at that 8.5 over. Now now Johnson's getting all the reps. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that one. At this point, just because I feel like I need to see a little bit more of what they're doing with him, and kind of get a feel for how the team morale is. Right now, I don't want to give any bad juju. I'm going to say I'm just going to stay away from the total until I read a couple more articles, see what they're doing. I would like to lean over, as it is my team, and I think that they're going to do some great things this year. But I don't want to give any bad juju. I'm going to stay away for the moment, see what they're going to do over the next couple weeks, and then I'll give you an official pick for that here in a little while. Do you look at futures at this point in the season? Do you see anything that jumps out at you, or do you strategize in gambling there? Well, with my old company, and I can't use it because they own all of my rights. But I did take Oklahoma, where I was, I don't know, the students' college football season ended last year, and they were, I believe, I don't want to say it was, I want to say it was plus 600, maybe plus 700 to win the Natty, just because I love Spencer Rattler. I feel like that team's super cohesive. But since I've gotten into baseball, I have, and with all the new job things going on,
sure.
I have not really been looking at too many futures, as I'm just one day at a time with Barstool is hard enough. So I don't want to add too much to my plate. Also, I got the 2 kids at home, so
right.
the future for me is dinner.
That's right. You mentioned Rattler. Is there anybody individually that you look at, just kind of like to watch out for, maybe a Heisman hopeful or something from an individual standpoint that could make a run? I mean, everybody looking at Derek Stingley locally.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's Rattler's to lose. Yeah. I think I was so impressed with him last season. I think he's just got a great mindset, great arm, great pocket presence. I really like that kid, and he seems also just like a genuinely good person. And I like to see genuine good people, like kind of like a Joe Burrow, that are not just completely freak athletes, but also just like have super cool quirks about them, and that seem just to be like down to earth, good people. And I think Rattler is one of those. He's definitely, I know he's the favorite right now, I believe. So I know that's not too exciting, but I have had my eye on him since literally football season ended last year.
We follow you on Twitter and we keep up with everything there. Is that the best way to keep up with you even over at Barstool now?
Yes, Twitter, and then my Instagram's growing. A lot of the Instagram stuff is just me goofing around whenever I'm drinking. But
Sweet.
the best way for you to catch all my picks, all of my clapbacks, all of whatever, definitely on Twitter. That's my biggest platform at the moment. And thankfully, even though with my losses, I keep growing. So there's got to be something somebody likes about me.
Hot streak around the corner. At Megan Making Money. At Megan Making Money is where you find her on Instagram and at Twitter. And you can catch her here every Thursday on the Jordy Culotta Show. Have a great weekend.
Y'all too.
Enjoy football tonight. There is Megan Making Money checking in from Lafayette this morning. Check her out. She's out over at Barstool Sports. Easiest way to keep up with her is online and on Twitter and Instagram at Megan Making Money. That conversation brought to you by RMB Builders, Rhett Bourgeois and his crew at rmb-builders.com. Get in touch with them if you need a custom-made home, if you need to get some handiwork done around the house, or if you need just a remodel, something like a refurbish to the house. They have helped us out and been fantastic to work with, very easy to work with. RMB Builders, rmb-builders.com is where you can find them online. We talk a little bit about Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the boys next here with Ben Baby coming up on the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. All right, welcome back in here to the Jordy Culotta Show. Megan making money, good stuff from her. She'll be here every Thursday during the football season, talking and giving us some bets and picks to look out for. Tonight, NFL football gets going over in Canton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame game. Looking forward to watching the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers, two of the top brands in sports, will be in Canton, Ohio, which will be the precursor to an enshrinement weekend that is headlined by Megatron and Peyton Manning, John Lynch, Charles Woodson, and, of course, LSU's own Alan Faneca will be enshrined into the Hall of Fame this season. We love catching up with our guy, Ben Baby, who is the ESPN staff writer up in Cincinnati covering the Bengals. He is very well connected, obviously, to the organization and has great information. And every time we bring him on, man, this is a very popular segment. Obviously, this part of the world is very interested and intrigued to hear about Joe Burrow and his health status and going into year 2. And then the Bengals draft Jamar Chase with the 5th pick in the draft. Thaddeus Moss is getting a chance in Cincinnati. Tyler Shelvin was drafted up to the Bengals. So there is a lot of South Louisiana and LSU flair up in the Midwest. And it seems like a lot of Ohio fans, a lot of Cincinnati Bengal fans, or a lot of Burrow fans find Baby's work when he comes on with us here at the Jordy Culotta Show. So we love having him. And he's back with us here on this Thursday morning. Ben, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
Doing good, man. Everybody has been just kind of peeking into Cincinnati from South Louisiana to see how Burrow looks and how Jamar Chase is moving around and the opening days of Cincinnati's camp. But let's start with the quarterback. You've had a chance now to see Burrow working out with that knee brace over the first couple of days of training camp. How is number 9 moving around there?
You know what? It's really hard to tell, to be quite honest. And what we've seen so far hasn't been great, if I'm going to be, to be frank. Burrow had the day off yesterday, and it wasn't really clear if it was a scheduled day off or the coaching staff felt like he needed it. I know talking to the staff throughout camp, they were evaluating kind of how Burrow was looking and kind of it seems like they always in the back of their mind knew that there might be, resting him eventually might be a good idea, especially when you think about how hard he's done, how hard in the rehab process and kind of how much work he did in the offseason to be fully cleared at this point. So he's definitely been going a lot, but so far in camp, he just hasn't really looked like he did, before he got injured last year. The offense has really struggled to gain any sense of rhythm. Downfield, they haven't really been able to connect with, Joe and Jamar or Joe and T. Higgins. And it didn't really look quite right. I don't know if Joe was really comfortable yet. We haven't spoken to Joe since camp started. He talked before the first practice, and then afterwards we haven't really spoken to him since. So it's hard to tell what Joe's feeling right now. But, obviously the coaching staff saw, the last couple of days, before his rest day, he had a couple of interceptions. He had and just wasn't really looking right to us, just watching on the sideline. So, that rest day couldn't have come at a better time for him. And, this is going to be a really interesting 3-day stretch where they're going to have practices Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we'll see how Burrow responds, how he looks, if he's a little more comfortable in the pocket. And it's become a very interesting storyline to watch as the Bengals open up training camp.
Ben, has there been any discussion, or was there any discussion during this rehabilitation process that he may be pushing it a little too extreme to get? I mean, because there were discussions when he first got hurt that he might miss like this season. And to see him at OTAs and then in training camp and not miss a snap and not miss a rep was very surprising for a lot of people down here. Was there any discussion from people in or around the situation up there saying he might need to back off a little bit and just, back the timeline up?
Yeah, no, I think I think that's just who Burrow is. I think one coach described him as an animal going out there and kind of how he did the rehab process. You look at what he did and how he was on the field for OTAs and still participating, going through all his rehab, pretty extensively. I find it funny whenever, someone asks him, do you feel grateful that you're back? He's like, no, not really. Because when you say grateful, it implies that, there's a lot of chance, and there really isn't a lot of chance. I worked really hard to get ready and to be fully cleared and to do the things I need to do. And that's just who he is. Yeah. And so, I think that's kind of the catch-22 with that. If you want him ready for training camp, there is a lot of work that goes into the off season. But, so far, it may just be he's not comfortable on the knee. Now, granted, there is an interesting caveat to this. The Bengals lost their right tackle to a hamstring injury. I think he actually got hurt on an interception that Joe threw a couple of days ago, and he's kind of been day-to-day with a hamstring injury. Well, the two backup tackles as well who have experience, they're also hurt. So the Bengals put in, in Burrow's last practice, rookie Deontay Smith, who I think they really like, and they think he's got some potential. But unfortunately for him, on Tuesday, he got matched up against Sam Hubbard, who just signed a $40 million extension, and Hubbard gave him gave Deontay his welcome to the NFL moment. And so I'm sure for Joe that wasn't, exactly the most pleasant thing as well. So there's a lot of factors that go into a lot of this. The receivers haven't been as helpful at times for Burrow either. So, there's a lot of circumstances, contributing to potentially why the offense hasn't been clicking so far.
The offensive line obviously did not protect Joe, up to par last season, and he was injured in a gruesome hit in the regular season last year. How has the upgrade been to that position, and what do they look like going into the fall?
Yeah, so far, it's really difficult to gauge where their offensive line is at. On one hand, we've got Zach Taylor telling us don't read into too much the offensive line rotation. And yet, it looks like, Michael Jordan, who's mainly culpable for Burrow getting hurt, if we're being quite honest, looks like he's been repping, with the ones at left guard, rookie Jackson Carman, who started, ended out, was their second-round pick and ended OTAs. As starting right guard, he's now working back in with the ones after being demoted for that first week or those first couple of practices. And then Riley Reef, they like him a lot, but he's been hurt the last couple of days and been day-to-day with that hamstring injury. So, we'll see what that whole unit looks like. I'm really curious, once we get into these preseason games, who's going to be healthy. One of the big caveats is starting center Trey Hopkins. It looks like he's not going to play all preseason. He's coming off a knee injury as well. And so that he suffered in week 17. So I think that's going to be a unit that we really fully don't know how good it's going to be until you get to week 1, which is going to be a really interesting time. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out, because theoretically you're not going to have Burrow or your starting center, go live in a game that's not, that's a non-practice setting until that season opener.
What has been the return on Jamar Chase? How good is he now that you guys have had a chance to see him in person?
Yeah, to be honest, you see a lot of the fluidity, a lot of the things that make Jamar a really exciting prospect and why he was so good at LSU. But, Jamar has had his share of rookie moments. He's had a good amount of drops, for being honest, so far through camp. But yesterday I thought he made a really great catch. It was honestly probably one of the better throws that's been made the last few days. Back up Brandon Allen, who was out there running with the ones, threw a deep ball to Jamar. Jamar just went up, twisted, and got it. He high pointed it really well. And, that's probably the best rep we've seen for Jamar. And the second one was Joe and Jamar connecting on a deep out, and the Bengals back together practice on Saturday inside the stadium in front of fans. But, I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he was saying, some of that stuff, that some of the drops are just, some rookie things. And I don't think that's going to be too much concern. We didn't see it at LSU. And in the big moments, Jamar delivered and was that go-to guy for Joe. So I think that's not something that I anticipate being a problem. And as Jamar kind of gets his footing underneath him and gets better, gets more familiar with things, you'll see him start to find his stride and start to flourish.
Yeah, he rarely dropped the ball at LSU. I was sitting here trying to think back on where he did. He dropped one in the national championship game. He had a great night in the Natty versus Clemson, but he dropped one that hit him right in the hands. But when the lights come on, Uno's going to be there. I mean, he's usually the best player on the field, and when the moments are the biggest, that's when he's playing his best. Ben, we've talked about it down here, and obviously we're not as connected. We're not in the area, not in the location. The expectation for the Bengals, what is it going into this season? I mean, down here we have high expectation because we just know the Burrow effect, and then you add Jamar Chase to the mix, and Thaddeus Moss is up there, and we've seen those guys succeed at such a high level. But now at the NFL, I mean, you got to become realistic about it. I know that they've made some offseason moves, and obviously bringing Jamar into the offense as another explosive piece. But what is the true expectation in and around the fan base for Cincinnati here in year 2 of Burrow?
Yeah, I think this is a big show me year for the franchise and for Zach Taylor in year 3. You know, you look at 6 wins in 2 years, and I think Zach understands and the front office understands that there is an expectation from the fan base that this team should be competitive in 21. And you know, and when you look at what they've been doing with the roster the last couple of years, you know, I don't know if it really was in a position to be truly competitive, you know, for a full 16 and now 17 game season. But when you look at the draft picks they made and getting Burrow and T. Higgins and then Jamar Chase with the 5th overall pick this year, they've done a lot of work in the draft and free agency and retooling the defensive side of the ball. You know, now the roster is situated and set up for this team to really be competitive, I think, in 2021. And at minimum, you know, you're looking at a team that should be, you know, hovering around the 500 mark. But, you know, I wonder if the expectation isn't that they should be pushing for you know, in the mix for a playoff berth in December and at least be sniffing and be in striking distance for that towards the end of the season. And to be fair, you know, when you're looking at a rebuild project in 3 years and you know, at the NFL level, you know, that's something that is feasible if you do it the right way. And, you know, if the Bengals aren't competitive and there aren't any massive injuries, no big setbacks with Burrow or some of the other key pieces, then you've really got to say, okay, kind of what have we done here over the last 3 years and what do we have to show for all the work that we've done? And so there's going to be a lot of long-term questions about the future of the franchise, you know, if they aren't, you know, where they need to be at the end of the season.
Where does Thad Moss fit in?
Yeah, you know, Thad's a really fascinating guy. I talked to him the other day, and, you know, he told me that he's just looking for a chance to kind of show what he can do on the field and get some reps. Obviously, you know, missed last year with a foot injury. You know, he's fully back, you know, fully cleared, ready to go. You know, he's obviously another LSU guy that they added along with, you know, Tyler Shelvin, who they got in the draft and had a good rep yesterday as well, from what I saw in one-on-ones. And I think that, you know, there's going to be a reserve tight end role for him. You know, I know they really like their 2 tight ends, and TJ Uzomah and Drew Sample. They're going to get the bulk of the reps, but, you know, there is that tight end 3 position that, you know, can be a run blocking guy, you know, can be used in certain packages and really be used on special teams. And that spot is going to be up for grabs, I think. And for, you know, Thad to go out there and secure that, I think these preseason games are going to be huge for him. You know, if he can go out there and show that he can be versatile in his usage, not just on the offense, but in special teams as well, that's going to really help his chances of making the squad. So, you know, I think I've got him slotted on my initial 53-man projection. You know, from given, you know, with the athleticism that he showed, I think that some of the special team stuff, you can learn how to do that over time. And obviously there's the Burrow connection as well. And that obviously doesn't hurt when you're looking at guys you want to keep around. So, you know, I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities during these preseason games for Thad to show that he deserves a spot on the 53-man roster.
One of the big losses for the New Orleans Saints last year on the defensive front was Trey Hendrickson. He's got 18 sacks over the last 2 seasons. 13.5 came last season in his contract year. How's he made an impact here early on the defense up there after signing with Cincinnati in free agency in the offseason?
You know, I'll be honest. I was a little skeptical of the Trey Hendrickson signing when it happened at that price point and the commitment the Bengals made to him. And so far, Hendrickson's, you know, been pretty impressive. You know, he had an interception. He intercepted Burrow on Tuesday. And we all were just saying, okay, that's kind of what we're seeing here. And I think that was a big testament to, you know, his willingness to buy into what they're asking him to do here. You know, he's had a couple batted balls. He's been disruptive. And that's exactly what the Bengals are looking for. And in opposite him, Sam Hubbard has been that same way as well at defensive end. And there's going to be a lot of pressure. You know, we talked about that on the team as a whole. But I think there's a lot of pressure on Hendrickson and the defense to really be more disruptive. This was a team that was last in the NFL in sacks. They let Carl Lawson walk in free agency, and a lot of people thought he was really underutilized and was probably better than his numbers suggested. And Trey Hendrickson, after that big year last year, I think that he's going to be asked to replicate that and prove that 2020 season wasn't a one-year wonder and that it wasn't a fluke. And if he's able to do that and be disruptive and really, you know, be impactful, that's going to really boost the defense and indirectly help Burrow in the offense as well. So, you know, we talked to Von Bell the other day, who also was with the Saints and played with Trey in New Orleans. And he said, you know, he just kind of needed those reps and needed those opportunities to show what he can do. And now you're kind of seeing it. So, you know, Von was thrilled to kind of see Trey do that. And And there's going to be, it's going to be really fascinating to see how that plays out. And the Bengals need Trey to have another big year, and not just this year, but a big couple of years.
Ben Baby, who covers the Cincinnati Bengals up for ESPN.com, is joining us here on the Jordy Culotta Show. You can follow him on Twitter at Ben_Baby. Keep up with all of his work at ESPN.com. Just make sure and follow the Cincinnati Bengals to keep up on the latest. Last one, you brought up Shelvin, and Tyler had a nice career at LSU. At times, his weight was a little up and down, but when he got right, he was an anchor on that defensive front for Dave Aranda, especially in that 19 championship run. What is the expectation around a mid-round draft pick in Shelvin and what he can provide to the center of that defense?
Yeah, Tyler's going to have another. It's going to be another one of these guys who has the opportunity to show what he can do in these preseason games. Their starting defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi, he's been dealing with a hamstring injury as well. So Shelvin will get his opportunities to go in there as they rotate in. And Shelvin, I don't know if he's ever really been, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, really been a big pass rush guy. Right. When you look at his size and what he can do, he's a guy that you really want him to eat up some gaps and free things up for the linebackers. And when you look at what the Bengals are going to be looking for, in that 3-4 scheme, if they can play him at a one tech or shade him and really have him in the middle and clog things up, I think that's where he's going to be effective. And you let their young linebackers really fly around and make plays. And so he's going to get a lot of opportunities to do that, be a rotational guy. We'll see what that depth looks like once the season gets rolling and really how that depth chart is going to shake out. But I think Tyler's going to have a lot of chances to really show that he can earn, his snaps. And in the coaching staff, when you look at, what they've done over the last 2 years, you can definitely play your way into bigger roles as the season goes on. So if he's productive early, if he takes care of business, throughout camp and is where he needs to be physically, he'll get the opportunities to be on the field.
Ben, I know I said that was the last one. This is the last one, I promise. I fell in love with your work when you were doing college football, covering the sport at Dallas Morning News, and that's where you and I formed the relationship. What did you make of Texas and Oklahoma announcing that they're joining the SEC?
Yeah, first off, thanks for the kind words. It's been fun to see the SEC drama. It makes me feel like I'm back covering the conference again from a distance. And seeing all these old friends kind of pop up with all these, with keeping track of everything that's going on. Right. I think it makes sense. I mean, you look at the SEC West scheduling pattern. It's almost like they were preparing for this. I mean, how many teams have played Texas the last few years? You had Bama scheduling him. LSU scheduled them in 19. Texas will be playing Arkansas this year. I joke the only school that didn't want a piece of them was Texas A&M in the SEC West. I mean, they were the only ones that didn't want to do it. And I joked, well, if it's good enough for everybody else, I don't know why it's not good enough for the Aggies. But now that rivalry game, if they come over, it's going to have to be resumed. There's no bones about it. There's way too much money on the table. And when you look at playoff expansion and the strengthening of your conference and the rights, I think that it's a good move. Texas and Oklahoma, they're the cash cows in the Big 12. When you're looking at it, they're joining other programs who bring in an equal amount of revenue. And the Big 12, it really was those two programs who ran, financially, who ran the show. And Texas, on the field hasn't had the results, but them and A&M have been neck and neck in the amount of money brought in, year out. If you can give national championships to boosters, A&M and Texas will be duking it out on an annual basis. So they definitely will fit in the SEC really well. It's going to be fascinating to see how this all shakes out competitively. Can Alabama continue to rule the roost? I know LSU, at Orgeron, they're going to be asked to have a bounce back year. And Jimbo and A&M have looked to send it. Can they do things well? I think the big factor in all of this, I wonder if people aren't, and I'm kind of removed from the situation now, but with the NIL coming in, I think the one thing that nobody has really discussed is are the donations to the athletic department still going to continue at the level that they were? Because, if you're a booster who's looking to support your program, why not do that? And if you've got a company and you're already donating a sizable amount, why not give that to the players directly instead of giving that to the athletic department? And so I'm wondering if the SEC isn't ramping up for maybe an offset of revenues. And if you can add Texas and Oklahoma, make your TV distribution package that much more lucrative, that may offset future losses because of NIL. And I don't know if that situation's really been discussed, but I think we're going to get to that point sooner rather than later. And I know that's kind of not what the NIL was specifically intended for, but we all know how loopholes work in college football and kind of how the revenue situation really works. So it's going to be really fascinating, but, you know, the SEC, I think, will continue to be must-watch football when you add names like Texas and Oklahoma to the conference.
Ben Baby does a great job of covering the Cincinnati Bengals, but as you hear, has got a love and passion for just the sport of football and has for a long time. He's covering the Bengals up for ESPN.com now, and you can follow him on Twitter at Ben_Baby. He and I are discussing behind the scenes a possible routine stop by here during football season to keep us updated of what's going on up there with the Bengals. Thank you as always, man. Have a great weekend.
Hey, man, always enjoy. Appreciate y'all.
You got it there. There is Ben Baby joining us from Cincinnati this morning, talking a little Burrow, talking a little Chase, talking a little Cincinnati, talking SEC expansion as it was a good conversation. Thank you to him for stopping by. Thanks to Megan Makin Money here on this Wednesday for stopping in. We'll be back with you tomorrow and closing out the week, talking about LSU on the practice field and getting some storylines there to watch out for. So all of that coming up for you here on the Jordy Culotta Show. And
football's back, man.
Yeah, man. And excited to announce that we could have some NIL deals coming down here on the Jordy Culotta Show. So
awesome.
Stand by. Hopefully some news will be popping here in the next 24 hours.
Before we go off, Willie Wade doing more of the team chemistry bonding. Chopped yesterday.
Chop challenge had
Yeah?
a little
I saw that.
bit of cooking
I
action.
saw that. I got 20 says the LSU football team's cooking together next Friday night.
Yeah,
They're following all of these
Hey,
teams.
why not?
Hey,
Follow that.
Willie's doing a great job, man.
they're
He's
going to be
doing a
so
great
good.
job. They are.
I mean, just the talent and then all this bonding stuff.
Yeah.
Gotta gel them.
Good stuff today. Thank you for the interaction. Like, share, comment. Check out JordyCulottaShow.com. NFL football tonight.
It's back. I can't believe he said Jamar Chase was dropping balls. That's like
Lights aren't on
I
yet.
know, foreign to me.
Lights
it's
aren't
like-
on yet.
Just wait.
And you know what? He's got to get his hand strength back. Somebody in the bunker brought up a good point, man. I mean, he's been out of it for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been out of it for over a year. You know, and not to say that he hasn't caught a football in a year, but I mean, you know, you got somebody guarding you, you got a helmet on, you got just everything. I mean, the practice structure, and I'm not making excuses, but I would be willing to bet that he doesn't drop the football.
He's gonna get it right. He's gonna get it right.
He won't. That won't be his reputation.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody out there. Go Chevrolet, GEAUX, Chevrolet.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.